Do you know what the word Elohim means? Well, when I found out what the word Elohim means, things started to get strange.
The creative process is first imagining and then believing the state imagined. Always imagine and expect the best. The world cannot change until you change your conception of it. As within, so without.
Have you ever been searching for something and found more than you bargained for? Well, there's a quote that I like. Some doors are not meant to be open, but curiosity has a way of turning the key. And that's me. My whole life, I've been curious. Yeah, I remember every single year I would have to hunt through my parents' house and their bedroom to find my Christmas presents. I love the excitement and the challenge of, you had to wait till your parents were gone or a part of the house where they wouldn't catch you, sneak into their bedroom, ruffle through things, but put it back so that nobody would notice. Then somebody's coming and you run out of the room. And every single year I found them. And it was a lot of fun. Well, until Christmas morning, that is. So every Christmas morning, I would sit there with regret that I wish I didn't find them. But I was just a sucker for the thrill of the hunt. And I never found more than what I bargained for. I found what I was looking for, but never something more. Like, imagine if I found something that said that I was adopted. That would turn my whole life upside down. And that's kind of the feeling that was happening to me as I was hearing these voices in the night, like I had mentioned in the last episode. And I was looking up things in the religion that I had followed for 20 to 25 years. I wasn't looking to upset my belief system. Really, I was looking deeper and deeper to strengthen it. But things started to get weird when I discovered a guy named Dr. Michael Heiser. He is an expert in Hebrew and Semitic languages, a biblical scholar. He had written many books, and he was a bit more open-minded than most, especially for a Baptist-y guy. He would even speak at UFO conventions from time to time. I thought it was funny. He said people are more open to talking about God at UFO conventions than in the church, which I've found to be true. But I discovered him while I was searching for the giants on YouTube. He had quite a bit to say about the giants, but what really caught me, and it's kind of his claim to fame, is he has discovered something about the word Elohim. Well, it's not that he discovered it, but that he openly talks about it and pushes this idea. So the word Elohim is used in the Old Testament, and everything that I had ever heard, it just means God. And it's especially used in the first few books of the Old Testament. Now, him being a Hebrew and Semitic language expert, he talks about how the word Elohim doesn't mean God, singular, but that word is a plural word. I heard somebody say that nobody can agree what Elohim means, but they can all agree whatever it means, it's plural. So let's take Genesis 1, for example. In the Hebrew, it says, "In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and earth." Now, in a normal Bible, they translate that to God. But really, a proper translation should say, "In the beginning, gods or sky council created the heaven and earth. Now that's got kind of a different feel to it. And so I started to discover that the narrative that we're used to is not actually supported by the Bible. But as I began to wrap my mind around this whole Elohim thing, I found strange things started happening. It felt like I had unlocked a door that was not meant to be unlocked. Like that quote I read in the beginning. Some doors were not meant to be unlocked, but curiosity has a way of turning the key. And it all started on a nice, sunny, beautiful September day. I was driving in my truck back from the world of plumbing with some supplies for a job I was doing. I had a nice hot cup of Tim Hortons coffee. I'm Canadian. That's how we roll up here. And I was driving to a vacant house that I was working at out in the country. I had to stop by there to get some extra plumbing parts for this job that I was going to. And as I was driving, I was listening to that Dr. Michael Heiser guy talk about the Elohim. And as he was explaining what that word means and the implications it has on the traditional Christian narrative, I was getting just a strange feeling inside of me. Like, what's going on kind of feeling. It felt like I was discovering something that had been hidden from us deliberately. You know, the way I would hunt for and find my Christmas presents my parents hid. But the whole idea was that they hid them deliberately. And I found them. And the feeling I had was like, wait a minute. They're hiding something from us. There's a lot more going on here. So that's where my mind was at. On the drive on that beautiful September afternoon. So I pulled into the house. I backed up to the garage. And I just had to run in and get a couple plumbing parts from the basement. So I left my nice hot coffee in the truck. I went in. Probably took me about a minute or so. I came back out. I got in my truck. And I discovered my coffee cup was gone. And I was really looking forward to finishing that nice hot cup of coffee. But I thought, well, it couldn't disappear. So I must have brought it into the basement, not realizing it, and set it down. So I went back into the basement, and I looked everywhere, and it was nowhere to be found. I looked back in my truck, and I thought to myself, this is impossible. It's been literally like a minute or so. Then I thought, is there somebody around here? It's a vacant house. I walked around, there was nobody outside. But I had to get to the job, so I just left. But that was a real head scratcher. But I went on with my day. And I went home in the evening. And I listened to some more stuff from Dr. Heiser about the Elohim. But that same night, I had a dream. And in this dream, I was in the hometown where I grew up. I was in the parking lot of a Canadian Tire store. That's a popular store in Canada. And in the distance, I saw a black helicopter flying around. And this was a military-type helicopter with no markings on it. It reminded me of the Sikorsky CH Super Stallion. It's one of my favorite helicopters. The Marines use them. They're pretty awesome. So I was just kind of watching it, thinking it's pretty cool. And then it flies right up to me, and it was hovering over top of me, maybe 50 to 100 feet. I could feel the rotor wash, smell the aviation fuel, And as it was hovering over me, it had tinted black windows, and one of those windows slid open, and I could see the silhouette of a man looking straight at me, staring at me. And then he closed the window really quick, and the helicopter took off. Now, in the dream, I didn't have fear, but I was kind of perplexed, and I didn't know if it was good or bad. I was just kind of indifferent, like, what does this mean? And then I woke up, but with a fever. I felt terrible. And over the next 3 days, I had all of the symptoms that I had when I was sick with Crohn's disease for 13 years. At this point, I had been 8 years without any symptoms, but for those 3 days, all of the symptoms came back, and I was running to the bathroom like 20 times a day. It was pretty stressful. I didn't know what was going on or if I was going back into a flare-up, but after 3 days, I felt fine. But I had the feeling like I may have unlocked something. And at the time, the black helicopter didn't really symbolize much to me, but there are countless stories of people who have encountered UFOs, and then, like, that day or the next day, they have black helicopters hovering over their house. So for me, this experience was kind of feeling like intimidation. And as I was sharing all this stuff that was going on with my wife, at one point she said to me, maybe you should stop looking into this stuff. And I remember thinking, maybe, but I'm just so darn curious, I can't help myself. Plus, I was being led by hearing strange things in the night. That was not helping. In fact, that was sparking my curiosity even more. Now let's fast forward to about a month or so later. I was renovating my basement, and it was a Sunday, and once again, I was listening to more stuff with Dr. Michael Heiser and some other guys now, talking about the Elohim, what it means, what the implications are. I was listening about the ancient Sumerians, the Anunnaki, the Epic of Gilgamesh. He's basically the original version of our Noah's Ark story, or should I say the older version of it. And it was beginning to dawn on me that the stories I was so familiar with in the Bible are not original to the Bible. In fact, those stories are older, repurposed stories that you can see all throughout history. I was familiar with my version of those stories. And I mean, that's a whole nother rabbit hole you can go down. If you listen to a guy named Matt LaCroix, man, he digs deep into all of this type of stuff, and you could listen for weeks on it. But I had that feeling again. I had that, what's going on? This stuff's been deliberately hidden from us. I have discovered something they, whoever they are, don't want us to know. And so, I went for a drive to Home Depot to get some more supplies. And as I'm driving, I'm listening to more of this Elohim stuff. And a car that was coming towards me in the other lane, it passed me, and in my rear view mirror, I could see that just after it passed my car, it flew off the road and rolled somewhere between 5 or 10 times violently into a field. Then I could see all these cars stopped and pulled over, and I just kept driving, and I was thinking, what just happened? I've never had anything like that in my entire life. I've never even been in a car accident, actually. So that was strange. And I thought to myself, man, I had that what's going on feeling. And it made me wonder, is this a form of intimidation? Or is this something that happens when we begin to question and adjust our belief systems. Maybe it makes this reality go squirrely a little. I don't know. But it definitely had my attention. Then, got another story. A couple weeks after that, I was working at a place where there was this guy from Lebanon. He makes soap in the basement of this place, and I would talk to him from time to time and ask him questions about Lebanon. So in the morning of that day, I was asking him about Baalbek. Turns out he grew up right across the road from Baalbek. So of course I had 1,000 questions about it, and if he ever saw anything strange there. And he said no, but he told me a story of when some evangelists had come to Baalbek and whatever. When he was a kid, it was a big deal, I guess. And this evangelist said he had a dream, and it was something to do with giants, that Baalbek was giants around there, and I don't remember the specifics. But after we talked about that, he went back into the house, and I was working outside. And then maybe half an hour later, he came outside, and he was asking me to undo his coat. It was done all the way up. And I thought it was kind of strange, but I undid it. And then he was telling me he lost his cell phone. And he looked all day, and he couldn't understand how he lost his cell phone in the basement when he had just had it. So in the afternoon, as he was complaining that he can't believe he can't find his cell phone, I told him that I had been having strange things happen to me lately. You know, when I look into Elohim, or even some of that stuff was around the giants as well. And his eyes bulged out of his head. And he said to me that after I had asked him about the Baalbek and if he had any cool stories about it, he went back into the basement and he felt like hands were choking him. And so he came back out to me and got me to undo his coat. That's why he was asking me to undo his coat, because he wasn't able to get it undone and he thought something was choking him. Now, I don't know what that means, but it happened. And once again, it really grabbed my attention. And fast forward another few weeks, and there was a secretary for a flour mill I do a lot of work at. She has a bunch of horses, and if she would go away on a vacation or for a weekend, I love to go over and feed her horses. You know, I could pet their nose and get them to eat oats out of my hand. It was great. Well, she had mentioned that she was just gone for a couple days, and if I could go over on the Sunday and feed her horses in the morning. And I was like, sure, I was really looking forward to it. And so that weekend passed. Monday morning comes along, and as I am waking up in the morning, I hear this phrase: God is blurring the lines between heaven and earth. And I thought to myself, wow, that's a pretty cool phrase. So I got up, got ready, and I went to work. And that day I was working at the flour mill, and as I drove in to the mill, I saw the secretary, Julie's truck, and I remembered I completely forgot to feed her horses. I felt terrible, and I can't believe that I forgot that, because I looked forward to doing it a lot. So I went into the office, and I said, Julie, I am so sorry. I forgot to feed your horses. I'm like, are they okay? And just apologizing over and over again. And she was laughing. Oh, very funny. But I kept apologizing. And then she got a weird look on her face. And she's like, are you joking? I said, no. She said, Chad, my horses were fed. And I'm like, well, who would have fed them? She said, nobody knew that I was gone. And nobody knows how to feed them. There was hay that was taken off of a wagon, and put in the pasture for the horses to eat. Now, that really creeped me out. And to this day, I'll ask her every so often, "Did you ever find out who fed your horses?" And she says no. But then I remembered what I heard that morning upon waking, that God is blurring the lines between heaven and earth. Now, I don't know what to do with that, but that's just something else that happened. So as you can imagine, this had my attention. And back to the Elohim thing, you may be thinking, well, what's the big deal? Instead of God, it's gods. Well, I think that for those of us who have grown up or bought into the monotheistic belief system with these moody gods that we want to stay on the right side of, for me, it started to shatter that idea. And instead of putting so much energy into pleasing God so that good things will happen in our life, it began to dawn on me that we create our own reality. And I began to see how the idea of an angry or a jealous God can lock us in a prison. This whole sin and the idea of hell, that really, they shut down our hearts. Fear causes us to lose the ability to critically think effectively. Think of the old fire and brimstone preacher. Really, all they're trying to do is to scare the shit out of you so you'll come to church. And in all of my years of having spiritual and psychic type experiences, I always found that God or the phenomenon was kind, patient, loving, never religious. And as I began to dig deeper into the Bible and to the true meanings of scriptures that I was getting ideas about in my sleep, I discovered that the true message of the Bible is that you don't need it. At no point in any of the scriptures does it say that someday a book's going to come along and you'd better adhere to that book. No, verses are like, the new covenant will be written on your heart. Jesus said, people look here and they look there for the kingdom. But the kingdom of God does not come with observation. The kingdom of God is within you. Here's another one. They asked Jesus, where did you get your teachings from? And he said, he who wills to do the will of the Father knows of the doctrine that I teach. Another verse says that you need no man teach you. And it seems to me that maybe one of the most dangerous things in the world for whoever is running this world and whatever negative entities are a part of that, the most dangerous thing seems to be for people to go within to find truth. It's like in our design, we have like a compass that will always point to true north. Something in us will always point to the right way. And it reminds me of a guy, an old man that I heard on a podcast, and he was talking about being abducted by aliens in the 70s, him and his friends, and it was like about an hour away from where I live. So it was pretty interesting. Something that close to me, I listened to very carefully. And he talks about how the aliens were friendly. I think they asked them if they wanted to take their clothes off so they could inspect them, if I remember right. And they said no. And they said that was fine. But then they said, you can ask us a question. So this guy said, What's the one true religion? And their answer was, there is no one true religion. Just follow the teachings of Jesus. And what are the teachings of Jesus? Love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. I'm convinced the teachings of Jesus are cosmic law. And I guarantee you, if the Bible today only contained the Gospels, 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there would be no wars fought because of it. So that's pretty simple. Just follow the cosmic law. And if you had to boil it down into the simplest form, the first principles of cosmic law, you could say, do no harm. That's it. Don't do anything to anybody against their consent. Do no harm. And this message can be hard for religious people because they've been told that they need this religion, or what I call a mind leash, to keep you reined in. And if you don't have this, you're just going to let it all hang out. But sometimes I wonder if it's religion that causes people to let it all hang out. It's kind of like the whole thing, don't scratch your nose. And then all of a sudden your nose is going to be itchy. When there's so much energy put around living a perfect way that really in some ways is against our own nature. If you feel dirty, you live dirty. And these ideas for me, they just fall back into the category of too good to be true. The only thing that's wrong with us is that we've been told that something was wrong with us, and that totally messed up, stalled, and stunted humanity for thousands of years. So this is good news. So I'll wrap things up here, but you can see that I'm hearing stuff in my sleep, and they're turning out to be true. And I'm having things happen in this material realm, like losing my nice hot cup of coffee, and Julie's horses getting fed. Let alone whatever was happening with that car when it flew off the road behind me. So it's getting me to a point where I'm definitely 100% sure something strange is going on, and that something is communicating to me in my sleep. And then I start going down the rabbit hole of the amount of people that have gone missing in state parks, which is pretty disturbing. And of course, that takes me to the Bermuda Triangle, and then I discovered something called the Alaskan Triangle. And it has a lot of people that have gone missing in it. Kind of similar to the Bermuda Triangle, some airplanes and a lot just campers and hikers. But it's had over 20,000 disappearances since the 1970s. That's pretty crazy. But the real weird part is, after I began looking into these things, a few days or weeks, one morning, what woke me up out of sleep was this phrase: people get lost in time warps.